Obviously, I've been spending the last couple of days, weeks listening, absolutely ingesting, taking in this new Metro Boomin and Future fucking album called We Don't Trust You. And I'm sure most of you have checked it out yourselves. And I have to say, what a marvelous, almost stupendous body of work this is. Absolutely incredible. First of all, I'm surprised that Kendrick was coming at him that hard, Drake in particular. I'm also surprised that in this particular album, which doesn't happen all the time, right? It doesn't happen all the time when Metro and Future link up. Usually people would say things like Metro's production made this, blah, 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 blah. Sometimes in a roundabout way to kind of insult Future's lyricism. But being a Future fan myself, I've always felt like Future's rapping ability is very underrated. His wordplay, the way he constructs his verses, his melodies, his choruses. I think they're very underrated just because of he uses auto tune in the way and the fact that he also and the content of his rap. But I think as a pure hip hop artist, there's probably none better than Future, especially when you think about his consistency over the years, the type of sounds, his versatility in terms of who he can work with and shit. And I just think in general, the style is just completely unmatched. There's no replicating that, right? Designer came along and tried to do a thing, didn't really work out for him, but it's almost difficult. The only person I can think of who's kind of similar at the moment, oddly enough, who's doing some big things, is that kid called Huncho.
Hello.
What you doing? Where you been? Where you going? You with your friends? I don't like them. I'm just saying, they ain't right. And I get sick. Now one of them got a man. Now one of them got a plan. Now one of them fucking with you. Now one of them drive a Benz.
He's a new guy that's out at the moment. I think he took a picture with Drake recently, so he's getting some good little, looks from the people you need to get looks from in the industry. And obviously, I guess there's some similarity there between Future, but regardless, that's the only person I can think of who legitimately is similar to Future in that way, but not really. So he's unique, special, amazing artist, really flipping love him. But I think this particular album was precisely what we all needed. No, we haven't really got enough of the classic sort of like DS2 version of Future and Metro in a while. So it was good to kind of get that with this particular album, We Don't Trust You. I think it started off amazing. The track number one, We Don't Trust You, title track is a banging title track. Melodics, sinister, repetitive cypher bars, almost like he's whispering these threats to you in your ear or reminding you down the phone that he don't trust you in the most calming, even keeled voice you can find. And that's usually the scariest, right? The guys who don't shout or scream, but say things in an almost kind of monotone way, just as like a kind of factuality. That was kind of cool. It could obviously be applied to everybody, but people are kind of thinking the opening verse was applying to Drake. The idea that Drake and Future had this beef going on about some girl called Princess Diana, who's like an Instagram baddie, maybe a dancer, I'm not too sure, but your typical kind of racially ambiguous BBL, big boobed, voluptuous looking woman, right? And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of surprised. More so because I'm probably projecting myself on the situation and thinking, if I was those type of guys and I was a rich, eligible bachelor type who had a preference for those type of women, and those type of women seem to kind of flock to me because of my looks, because of my wealth, because of my stature, because of my clout, I wouldn't be fussed over them. I think when you're a normal guy, a regular civilian, I think you sometimes get a little bit fussed or preoccupied about women and shit because you don't really have options. Again, maybe I'm talking out my ass, but I know from my own experience, when I was kind of worried about my ability to attract women or not to attract women, that was when usually I was preoccupied about it. And stuff like, oh, this other guy's going out with the girl that you liked would annoy me, or the fact that someone said no would hurt me. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff, because you're wanting to find somebody, and every time you go sound down different avenues, the door shuts in your face, or you get fucking blocked or something, all right? So I'd imagine if you attain the level of success these guys have, and you're actually good at what you do as well, because talent and expertise and all that sort of stuff also attract people, you have options. So when you have options, I just don't imagine people being pressed, about who hooks up with who. It wouldn't really matter because you have options. But I guess it does at some level. Maybe at the top level, there's actually the opposite. Maybe at the top level, you almost feel like the girl shouldn't want anyone else but you because you're such a clouted up individual. Maybe that's the thing about it. But to be honest, as a fan of music, as a fan of artistry, as a fan of creativity, and as a fan of Drake and Future together, it's really upsetting for me that we're not going to get another mixtape for them on an album anytime soon, considering the relationship he has with Metro, and just considering how, outwardly they were with their dislike of Drake in terms of this album. Because, it's not outright. A lot of it's innuendos and shit, but I refuse to believe this narrative that, we weren't really talking about him. It's not that. It's like, bro, you guys know what you said. You guys, you know what I mean? It is what it is. So the fans are reading reading into the things that these guys have said on the album, and obviously things they've done previously. And it's easy to put one-on-one together and make two. But obviously these guys will try and make it seem like the fans are just making it up in their heads. But you're the ones putting the stuff out there. You know what you're saying. You know what effects it's going to have on people. But it's whatever. That's another sort thing to kind of talk about anything else, right? But opening track, flipping amazing. And then obviously we need to talk about the main one that's got everybody in a tizzy, right? The main thing that's got everybody in a tizzy is, of course, the track that features Kendrick Lamar.
Gotta find my joint up on this bitch. I miss you.
I have to be honest, I understand why people are in the tizzy. I get why people are in a tizzy with this particular track because it is mental. Because no one expected Kendrick to be on this album, not at least me. Maybe because I haven't been keeping an eye on the leaks and stuff. I had no idea Kendrick was going to be on this. But I'm also wondering if Kendrick being on this as a quote-unquote surprise had anything to do with him leaving TDE. Maybe the leaving of TDE was to get away from the industry politics of things and be a little bit autonomous and be a little bit independent and do your own thing. Maybe TDE kind of have got too many industry links. Maybe if you were linked up with Drake on this one, they would have found out beforehand and then maybe would have preemptively jumped in front of the strike before it landed. I don't know. But in my opinion, it came out a bit of a surprise. It came as a surprise, especially because I was listening to it and it had no features listed. So hearing Kendrick kind of jump on the track was absolutely amazing. The really sinister and crazy thing about this is that, if I'm not mistaken, The Weeknd is harmonizing in the background. So I'm not sure if this is done on purpose, but it feels like they've assembled the Avengers of people who hate Drake now. In Metro, obviously Future now, Weeknd's had his issues, and of course Kendrick Lamar. It seemed like they purposely went out their way to do so. Again, I could be wrong. It could be completely coincidental. But that's what it kind of felt like a little bit when they started. Anyway, the thing for me that I thought was really insulting, apart from the bars from Kendrick, was a bit where he's saying like,
I hold them sentiments symbolic. My temperament bipolar, I choose violence. Okay, let's get it up.
About the J. Cole and Drake link up, right? Or the the brothership or the bromance they've been developing over the last couple of years. And the fact that, J. Cole did a few legs of the, of the tour that he's doing at the moment. And everybody, and I guess Kendrick didn't react the way that everybody else reacted to it because he obviously has a problem with Drake. But I thought that was the most insulting bit of it. The fact that you're describing somebody's friendship or rekindling whatever, that made me laugh so much. I swear to God, I was laughing. See, but I was like, Kendrick is an absolute demon for saying, like what? Like, how dare you like reduce my friendship with another man to an R, like it's some cute thing. It kind of reminds me of that time. It kind of reminds me of that time when I was in Berghain and I was in the XXX room, right? That's the room downstairs. That's like amazing. It looks like something out of like a cyberpunk sort of movie with like chains, with like speakers hanging off of chains, big platforms, a bar that comes out of like some early 2000s movie and shit. It's absolutely amazing. And a DJ booth is like up, it's like in a cage. It's like there's a stairs and there's like a cage platform. And that's where the DJ booth is. So you kind of look up at them, right? It's absolutely amazing. I remember being in that room and I got talking to this like really ripped gay guy, right? Super short, but really ripped. And I think I tried to say something like I tried to be funny. Tried to make like a joke or something, right? And he just looked at me and said, "Oh, look at him." Look, something like, and just reduced me to that. And I remember being so embarrassed. Like I literally felt small. I felt like I felt reduced to the size of an ant. So whenever another man says it kind of reminds you of that. It sparks my PTSD of like being embarrassed by this super ripped gay guy in Berghain who kind of, reduced my fecal attempt at trying to be this cisgendered, like, ha lad guy. He was like, while his chest was like all dripping in sweat from him dancing. I was just like there, like scratching my beard, like, okay, I guess I'll go that way then. Oh, that's hilarious. So that's when I heard that, I was like, you know what? Kendrick's absolute madman. But the verse itself, absolutely incredible. The opening line, these niggas talking out of their necks. Don't pull no coffin out of your mouth. I'm way too paranoid for a threat. DOT, the money, power, respect. The last one is better. Say it's a lot of goofies with a check. I mean, I hope them sentiments symbolic. Imagine, bro. My temperature bipolar. I choose violence. Which is funny because I think he said in another bar about how he saw the show where Drake and Ye, briefly rekindled their relationship for some like benefit for Larry Hoover, and he said he basically felt, I forgot what song it was, but he felt like he's not mature enough. He's not at a mature enough level to do that to somebody. Like he's still on like violence mode. So I think that's funny that he kind of did that as a callback. He continues, okay, let's get it up. It's time for him to prove that he's a problem. Niggas clicking up, but cannot be legit. No 40 water. 40, the producer. Tell him, get it up to me. Get up with me, sorry. Fuck sneak dissing. First person shooter. The track on Drake's album. Yeah, cool. I hope they came with free switches. I crash out like fuck rap. This Melly Mel if I had to. And Melly Mel is like the original, one of the, I guess you want to say the originals of hip hop and stuff, so that's a kind of symbolic line. But I find it hilarious, right? So, like, yeah, it's a symbolic version of hip hop or member of a hip hop group. And then if you diss Melly Mel, that's almost like a diss of hip hop itself, right? So, yeah, cool. But you know what's funny about that? YMW Melly thought he was talking about him. YMW Melly, he's currently in prison, or he's currently on trial for killing 3 of his best friends in a car and then attempted to frame it as a drive-by, which is wild, isn't it? It does make you think about, like, are police in America just incompetent, or is it really hard to prove how somebody died from a bullet wound? Because I'd imagine if somebody did kill 3 of his friends in a car and he was in the driver's seat, it's pretty easy to kind of like figure out bullet trajectory from how the bullets kind of exit the car to say, okay, this guy actually did it, as opposed to a drive-by. If someone's driving by your car, the bullets as they come in will be they'll go in a different way if they were like, do you know what I mean? So I'm not even sure why he's on trial for so long. I really don't get why it's taking so long to either convict him or to say he's fucking not guilty. Either way, he's currently in prison. I'm assuming if he gets, convicted of those crimes, he'll probably be there for life, maybe a death penalty, who knows? But the fact that he's sitting in prison and been out of the picture for a while, thinking that, Kendrick is referencing him in this, like, why would it, like, what? Like, maybe if he's talking about, knocking off his friends, like a Mel, that might have something to do with it. But I don't know. That was a weird thing that YMW Melly thought he was attached to this. But, maybe it's a good social media manager too. A good social media manager would have probably been smart enough to be like, you know what? My client's currently sitting down in jail at the moment. So I'm going to like jump on this. Everyone's talking about it and just kind of, just to kind of ride the wave on the algorithm and get him a bit of a bump up because it's been a bit slow.
Half the U.S. population treats guns like Nerf guns.
Yeah. Of course. To be honest, it makes sense. So it's the same like here in the UK. I'm not going to rag on the guns too much because I think in the UK here we have a problem with knives because knives are so easily accessible too. So we treat knives like fucking, like what? We treat knives like balloons. You know what I mean? And people do a lot of balloons in the UK too. So balloons and knives are fucking everywhere. Let's continue with this one. Got 2 Steves with me. I'm snatching chains and burning tattoos. It's up. Lost too many soldiers not to play it safe. If you walk around with a stick, it ain't Andre 3K. Think I won't drop the location. I still got PTSD. Motherfucker, the big 3. Nigga, it's just big me. Which is a bit of a bar or a send to like Thingy Majiggy, J. Cole, because he said something about the big 3. But I love the fact that he just refuses to put himself in the same competition or in the same sort of list as Drake and J. Cole, But unfortunately, they're the same. They're in that bracket together. I don't think even the most staunchest Kendrick fans can't say that Drake isn't in the top 3 based on his run, based on the quality of his music, his rapping ability. He just is what it is. You have to decide who of the big 3 you put 1 and 2 and 3. Doesn't really matter, but because I think personally for me, the reason why the big 3 is way more kind of interesting than the previous years or previous generations is I feel like each artist offers you something different. You could basically listen to each artist, and Kendrick, Drake, J. Cole, and listen to them from different types of music, different types of moods, different types of times of your lives, whatever, but different types of captions you can get from different people. So there's no real need to kind of debate about who's the best in either one. But I do love Kendrick's refusal to be listed on the same list of those kind of guys, and essentially saying, no, I'm the only one that flipping matters. Cool, whatever. It continues. What I'm like that, and your best work is a light pack. This I think is the most brutal part of it, right? Because I think this has a lot of truth to it, and I think for a Drake guy, it would definitely kind of hurt more because that's been the constant conversation around him, and something that will never leave until he actually does drop a concise body of work, which he just hasn't done just yet. Again, I'm a big Drake fan, so I can speak with this kind of objectively. I still think he just needs that one concise project to come together, and then everything will kind of be okay. We can kind of move away from the subject. But I think Kendrick does really make a really good point in this bar where he says, right, and your best work is your light pack. Nigga, Prince outlived Mike Jack. Nigga, bum. So suggesting that For All the Dogs, the Scary Hour edition, the 6-track kind of like, EP that came out, which I legitimately do think was one of Drake's best bodies of work. That little trick track EP, but it's not enough to like say he's got a classic album. But if he would be able to, make that into 10 tracks, maybe 11 or 12 max, right? And put that out and it's like consistent with him as an artist and shit, that argument completely goes away. But at the moment, we just haven't got it. But I don't think he cares, I think Drake likes to just put random bunches of music that he's made during a period of time, drop them whenever he wants to drop them. But he kind of, I guess the songs are like for him, like most people are. I guess it's a snapshot of a time in his life, and then he hopes that will then relate to people and it'll smash whatever it may be. But I don't think he sits there and tries to construct a thematic album. With deep concepts or like with the message behind it. It's just more so like, hey, here's some records, here's some tunes. Some of these tunes say these particular things, some say other particular other things, some just a vibe with the feel. That's what he kind of does. He's almost like it's like fan service in a way, right? But I think Kendrick and maybe J. Cole, it's more of a artistic expression. Hey, I want to say this, right? I want to imbue this type of mood, so that's why you're going into it. So all the songs that you make you're already thinking of that subconsciously. But he did prove if he wants to do that whole like concise, here's a message, here's a theme album, he can do it. Yo, big up Wingers Dingus, appreciate you.
Drake is the musical equivalent of McDonald's.
Nah, I don't think so. I think people reduce Drake's artistry and his creativity too much. I think the musical equivalent to McDonald's is a Taylor Swift. Personally, in my opinion, a Taylor Swift, a Deadmau5, One Direction when they're around, that is McDonald's music, totally for me. That girl that's always on the charts, Tate McRae, like there's people that are in the charts now that make McDonald's music. You hear it in McDonald's, right? What are you talking about? I think Drake makes far better music than that. He's just really popular. I don't think being really popular reduces or takes away from your artistry or takes away from your creativity at all. Especially when it comes to music. I think that's a really bad way to go about doing or looking at things. It's like Adele. Adele's music is kind of boring to me, but I see why people like it. And she's immensely popular. It doesn't mean because she's immensely popular, she's not talented or good. Even Billie Eilish is a good example. Billie Eilish's music isn't necessarily for me, but it's good music. It really is good music. I personally think so. For what it is, there's no one that sounds like her. She's super talented. The production is incredible. The song lyrics are great. Visuals are also always impressive. And she just seems like a well-adjusted young woman as well who's handling the fame journey pretty well. I don't think it's fair to say just because something's popular, it's not good. I don't like that way of thinking. And I think as a fan of music, you almost limit yourself to what you can listen to or the things that you can enjoy if you're only viewing it from that perspective. If it only has to be, if it's not McDonald's must be good. It's like, bro, McDonald's makes some good burgers. Some McDonald's spots are shit. Some McDonald's spots are good. They have good fries. The shakes are pretty decent, depending on where you are. So are some of the other sweet snacks and shit they have out there. I saw flipping a picture of somebody that went to McDonald's in Japan, and they had a fucking matcha flavored apple pie thing. Like, I was like, shit, okay, cool. Do you know what I mean? Like, they have location specific exclusive items and shit. It's not all bad. It's dependable, right? The golden arches, you can see it from a mile away. Like, honestly, this whole like commercial thing versus underground thing is lame, man. Just because you're underground also doesn't mean you make good music. I refuse. Just because you're conscious doesn't mean you're a better rapper. Like, let's just judge people solely based on what they produce and their art, and then that's when we can have more interesting conversations. And the criticism could come from a way more informed place. It's about, oh, this person's like this person's music sounds like this. It's a kind of a lazy argument to kind of draw from, in my humble opinion. Again, I could be wrong because I'm a bit of a Drake fanboy, but that's my stance on that regard. Moving on. This point that Kendrick made about nigga Prince outlived Mike is interesting because even though he says there's no big three, it's only big me, it's kind of him also giving a little bit of a reference. It's almost him acknowledging Drake's greatness as well. He's like, okay, you're MJ, but you're Michael Jackson, but I'm Prince, right? But I think in a way it's odd because I still think that Michael Jackson is obviously, he was the king of pop. Maybe some people still say he still is the king of pop, but he was able to do that kind of level of music, have global star, like one of the probably the last global superstars in that regard, right? But I also think he was immensely underrated when it comes to the creativity, the quality of his music, the visuals, like songwriting ability, producing ability. Like, he was very, very, very underrated in that regard. It wasn't just, oh, he's very popular. No, he was popular for a reason. That stuff resonated. Artistry was on fucking 10. You know, like people were falling over themselves to try and work with him. Like, the guy was immense. And obviously Prince had his own situation going on as well. He had also a really, really big following when he was around, and obviously creatively and musically, talented wise, plays every fucking instrument and shit, sings amazingly, great visuals and messaging, right? He starts on the industry. Amazing guy. But I think this is a weird kind of acknowledgement that they're both like up there, right? And the idea of like, Prince outlived Mike as in like a reference to how good one of the other is a bit dumb, but hey, I like it, all of it. And then honestly, look at that. For all your dogs. That's the biggest, for all your dogs buried. That's a K with all these nines. He gonna see Pet Cemetery. Nigga bum. That's the I love that at the end, right? Because, LA guys, that guy's a bum. That guy's a weirdo. That's like the maximum kind of insults. But that is the clearest indication you need that he was definitely talking about Drake, right? He didn't need to mention this bit, right? For all your dogs getting buried. Like, that's for sure a Drake bar. So, is Drake going to respond? Is he going to say anything? Probably not, I would assume. I would like him to say something personally, just to kind of bury this kind of narrative that he's scared of Kendrick or some shit. I don't know. There's different avenues to kind of come at it, right? Different type of avenues to kind of approach it. But I think personally, as a fan of music, I have to say this. I don't really enjoy the whole battle back and forth on records thing. I don't really enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie. Unless it's funny, like when 50 and Rick Ross were doing it, or like when Jim Jones and Max B were doing it, or like Cameron v Everybody, cool. But the whole back and forth thing that fans love, I think is a nonsense. If anything, it's more exciting for the fans because it's messy and it's dramatic and it's drama filled, and obviously you can opine and talk about it for hours and minutes like I'm doing now, and it kind of makes you sound informed. But I do dislike how people are so eager and ready and happy and can speak about beef in hip hop, but when it comes to talking about what they enjoy, they have nothing to say. Like, can't you name me an album that you really enjoy that you kind of resonated with? Can't you name me the favorite track on a particular album? Can't you name me an artist that you watched live that was amazing? Can you name me an artist that you've kind of just found recently that you've really been impressed with? Like, what about this song do you like? What about this song do you don't like? Blah, blah, blah. Like, actually have conversations about music. No one does. It's always about who's fucking who beat up who's the record. Like, everyone's more interested in that sort of stuff. And I think that is like the least interesting thing about most artists. I swear to God. the least interesting thing about most artists is who they're fucking or who won the fight or whatever. The most interesting thing about artists is like how they put these songs together. Have any of you ever tried to like produce music, to open up GarageBand, to open up fucking FL Studios and shit, and actually put a song together? Do you know how hard it is to actually construct a song, to start with a beat, to start with a, you know, a fucking drum line, right? A bass line, just try to start with, to include hi-hats or not, right? A chorus here, reverb there. Like where does the verse end? How many bars is it? Like, it's really difficult. It's not easy. So the fact that these guys are able to kind of churn out music at a high level, at this sort of frequency, you know, like that should be the conversation that we want to hear about, like what goes on behind it, has it like, or maybe their kind of, you know, I would say philosophies about views on the world and shit, maybe on current topics. That might be of interest, but I really could care less about who they're fucking and shit. I really could. I honestly could care less, and I would like to have more music, because the sad thing about this is that the fans get hyped for this beef, but then the fans also lose out, because now we're never gonna hear an album produced by Metro Boomin for Drake. Now we're not going to hear Drake and Future doing another What a Time to Be Alive. You know what I mean? I know some people be like, oh yeah, good riddance, but I would have liked to have seen that. I would have liked to have seen another What a Time to Be Alive. I would like to have seen Drake work with one particular producer in like a Metro Boomin to produce an entire, you know, thematic kind of album, maybe the same sense of how Nas did his album with fucking Hit Boy and shit. I would have loved that, to see a trilogy of those fucking albums come out. Why not? But the fans lose out. We get this momentary thing where everyone's getting hyped all the time about the beef, and nothing really, you know, of artistic merit kind of comes from it, and everyone just wasted a bunch of time and money or whatever it may be. And judging on what we can read between the lines online, the beef is about nothing. The beef is about some girl. Really? A girl. Like, come on, man. We gotta do better, man. We gotta do better. But people enjoy that sort of stuff. It is what it is. The album itself is absolutely banging. Just as a last point on the actual album, I have to say this categorically. I know a lot of people have said in the past that Future's rapping is a bit whatever, and he gets carried by the beat. But I think this album is a clear indication for me that Future's definitely like elevated his level of like putting together songs and shit. He's elevated for sure, because I think personally Future kind of carries this album. Metro Boomin's production is great. It's amazing, especially on like one of my favorite tracks is Slimed Out, Magic Don Juan, Princess Diana, Claustrophobic is amazing. Obviously Like That is fucking brilliant. There's some good fucking feature. Oh, obviously Type Shit. Yeah, Type Shit with Carti. Yeah, cool. But I think Future's bars actually carry most of this tape. Not gonna lie. As great as the producer Metro Boomin is, for once, Future's bar, and I'm not too sure if that's intentional. I'm not too sure if it's intentionally done, where like, I feel like DS2, a lot of Metro's Boomin production stood out, right? But I'm not too sure if maybe this was a purposely done, where they wanted to kind of like have a little bit more of a middle ground. Or let Future shine a bit more. I'm not too sure what the purpose of it was, but I feel like the beats took a bit of a back seat, and Future was the one carrying most of his. But still, incredible album. I really recommend you check it out. We Don't Trust You by Future and Metro Boomin, available on all of your digital streaming platforms, aka DSPs. Don't delay. Listen to it today.